barrier is built in the Israeli territory. So you can see the campsite of uniform with the letter UN on it. And at this side are some of the patrols and soldiers at the road. So outside this barrier would be the territory of Lebanon. So can you tell us more about what's here at the back?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, we are also standing in the area of what we call the blue line. This wall is recently constructed by the Israeli state, the Israeli actually defense forces. According to IDF, it's coming south of the blue line. The blue line is the demarcation that the UN made in the year 2000 when Israel withdrew from Lebanon.
Thank you, Darren. 好，我跟大家翻译一下。我随翻译先请导播唐老师给我们放一下我之前也来过这里调研。
Miss Tang, can you play one of the footage that we have shot some days earlier? At that time, the fences were not fully completed. Because now we are walking on the borders, so we are now walking from west to east. We are heading northeast. Now what you see is the barrier, or fences, if you will. These fences were built to distinguish the borders of the two countries. And these fences were built from the beginning of this year. But the fences were extended from the above and below the earth in order to prevent anyone from climbing over. For Israeli army, this is a measure to protect their national safety and security. Right now, we're moving on and moving closer to some of the residential area of Lebanon. Now let's move on to another topic of this live stream. What you see right now is a trench on the side of Israeli, because as is known to all, a scouting plane on the Russian side was shot down about a month ago. So here you can see some of the trenches. The 2000 blue line is not actually an armistice line, which will be elaborated later.
So it's revealed the hatred. Can we say hatred? Reveal the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah.
Actually, when it comes to Israel and Hezbollah, for Israel, it's always about security matter. So Israel will do anything, no matter what is it, in order to defend their land and their people, according to their statements also always about any incident happens. And this is what the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, delivered in the time of that incident.
Okay, thank you, Darren. 达利女士刚刚跟我们分享说呢，这个恩怨先，她这个恩怨。
According to Ms. Darren, there's always a very complex relations between Lebanon and Israel. And according to President of Israel Netanyahu, they have to safeguard national security. So a month ago, when there's a jet down, Israeli army argued that their planes are there to defend the attack of Hezbollah. Because of the geological adjacency of the two countries, Israel always felt threatened because of the proximity of these two countries. So when the incident happened a month ago, Russia, as a major player in the Middle East area, has been deeply involved in the Syrian internal civil war. So what will the bilateral relations be between Russia and Israel? Let's talk to our guest more on this topic.
The tense between the two sides was very high, but nowadays we can feel that it's quiet. The Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just met the Vice Prime Minister of Russia in the past few days, and they discussed two countries' common issues.
This week?
Yeah, like 3-4 days ago.
Okay. Thank you. 达利女士刚刚说呢，一开始这个事情发生的时候，还是就是两国的关系肯定是相对很紧绷的，但是那么目前来说其实还是稳定的。譬如说在几天前呢，那么以色列总理内塔尼亚胡刚刚会面了俄罗斯的副总统，那么他把这个新闻说出来的意思就想跟大家说呢，目前就是也是紧绷，但是还是一个稳定的一个状态。那么现在呢，跟大家说一下，我之前因为本场直播呢曾经约采了以色列媒体《右上等邮报》的政治记者，首席政治记者。吉尔霍夫曼先生
We plan to talk to one of the Israeli journalists who had been with us for many times during the pre-interview. He also gave us some of his remarks. So according to Mr. Hoffman, this journalist, as you can see, here are some of his remarks.
300 aircraft missiles. That will make the situation on the Israeli northern border more challenging, but Israel will continue doing everything necessary to maintain its security and prevent Iran from spreading its power in the region. So, 我先跟大家简要翻译。那么。
So to put it simply, the current situation is still tense. From the perspective of Israel, they are mistaken as the culprit of the incident. And Mr. Hoffman also pointed out that Russia transported some S-300 missile system to Israel.
根据这个，我们在现在的情况是，当时它的其实是应该是叙利亚防导还没有 S-300，那么现在刚刚装上。
which Syria did not have beforehand. So after Syria is equipped equipped with the S-300 anti-missile system, it will be in a better place if they are attacked on air by Israel. So this is this anti-missiles, how the anti-missile system works. They have to travel faster than missiles, of course. Therefore, if the planes show up once again in Syria territory, they will be up against a much bigger danger and risk than before. This will definitely tense up the situation in the north of Israel. But Israel is ready to do everything they can to safeguard national security and also prevent Iran's power from further expanding. And another topic, the reason why the Israeli government is focusing so much on the tension at the north border. We'll tend to that after we take a look at some of the residents here. At the northern border of Israel, as you can see, the residents are quite concentrated at the Israeli side, however, much more sparse at the Lebanon side. Here, this cluster is located about 800 meters, same level as the Golan Highland, which is quite an important location in military sense. So, Mr. Aaron, can you talk to us more about this 2000 blue line? This is quite unique. About the Israel, always mention about Iran, about Hezbollah, about Iran spreading the power in the northern border beyond Israel. So now we're trying to explain to the people about the unique part of the UN 2000 line.
Oh, the blue line.
Yes, it's very unique. We talked.
Well, yes, because this line was a demarcation of the UN during the Israel withdrawing from south of Lebanon. It was only to tell what is the border between the two lands, the Lebanese land and the Israeli land, where Israel has to go further inside their land. So they made this demarcation, and it's not about ceasing fire or something. This is the difference between this line and other lines like the Green Line or any other line in the region.
Okay, thanks, Darren. 谢谢达林女士。那么达林女士刚刚跟我们就在解释说，这个联合国的蓝线。According
to Mr. Ren, this blue line was made in 2000 by the United Nations. Back in 1978 and 1982, Israeli armies entered Lebanon twice. According to the Lebanese, there are two intrusions. So there is a line of actual control for Israel that is up until 2000. At that time, UN officials, they drew a line on the land. This is a demarcation of military withdrawal and defeat. Military withdrawal. This is different from other lines made by the UN. For example, Israel and Syria, that would be a ceasefire line or a armistice line. But this line that you are observing right now is a line of military withdrawal. And that's what's special about it. It's not a line of armistice. That's why the Israeli army are quite concerned with the situation and activities of Hezbollah at this region, at the north border of Israel.
Because Hezbollah is connected to a country, inside a country. They have seats in the Lebanese parliament. It's different from the Gaza situation.
Okay, I'll just explain the reason I connected, because every time there's some conflicts, we can read the news. The Hezbollah always say something to be on the same side with the Hamas. This is what I learned from the news.
Well, maybe because they both have funds from common donors, I can say.
Okay, that's a very interesting comment. 那我跟大家翻译一下，刚才我跟达玲女士在聊天，确认一下，那么黎巴嫩南部的实际是在黎巴嫩。
As Ms. Daring was saying, the south part of Lebanon is under the control of Hezbollah. It's different from the Hamas because Hezbollah has sittings at the Lebanese parliament, and that's quite different than Gaza and Hamas. So when I was reading the news, when there is a conflict in Gaza between Palestine and Israel, the situation will be quite different. But she believes that the two sides have the same supporters. As you can see, the Middle East issues are intertwined with each other, especially when it comes to Israel and its neighboring countries. The reason is that if you take a look at this very long fence over there, this is newly built. This is a separation and demarcation of Israel and Lebanon. This is a line of actual control, an LAC line. Here are some farmlands as well as residential areas. In the Palestinian-Israel area, this kind of fences are quite common. So there are many similarities when it comes to different pairs of relations in the Middle East area.
Wall. Actually, we don't allow for about another separation wall. Often we see separation wall inside Israel and the Palestine conflict.
Yes,
it's actually very similar.
Yeah.
To it's more like the situation similar, so we have something similar.
Yeah.
So all the issues in the Middle East, the conflicts, especially here around Israel and Palestine, was really
connected. You mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
So can you provide some views about your?
Well, for the Israeli wall inside Israel between Israeli areas and Palestinian territories, it's about drawing the borders between two sides. Okay, here it's not only about drawing borders between two sides, it's also about security. There also they say about security, but the security issue there is less I can say less tense than the security reasons here, because here when you have a conflict between Israel and Hezbollah, you're talking about a war, not about resistance between Palestinians and against Israelis.
Okay, let me just translate a bit.
Mr. Rin just pointed out that the difference is that the conflict between these two countries is war in nature. If there is if there is a conflict broke out, it will be war, and that would be in a much larger scale than the one of Israel and Palestine.
Well, PLO was established in the year 1964. It was an announcement by the Arab League in their meeting in Cairo to establish a form or a body to represent the Palestinian people. And they began operating from neighboring countries such as Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, from all around, of course, before Oslo.
Thank you. 那达利女士刚才说呢，这个巴勒斯坦解放组织的巴解组。
So the PLO of Palestine was founded in 1962 in Cairo. Sorry, that's in 1964 in Cairo. And their main areas of activity is over there, where I was pointing. So up to 1993, after the assignment was signed, PLO was came back to the west bank of the Jordan River. The two intrusions from Israel to Lebanon has had a lot to do with PLO. These two intrusions are because of some of the disturbances on the Lebanese side. So from this part, you can see that a lot of Middle East issues are intertwined with each other. We're now coming to the end, near the end of today's live streaming. As I said, there's an intertwined relations between different issues of Middle East. And Syria is also a major area of activity for PLO. On a sunny day, you can see with your own eye the highland over there. That would be the side of Syria. As you can see, Syria is also very close to Lebanon and Syria and Israel. Because of such a proximity in geology, there is inevitably intertwined connections between all of these countries. So things are not quite black and white in any of these issues. It's quite complex and intertwined. That's about all I have to share for today. Let's come back to the topic of today's broadcast. That is because of the jet that has been put down a month ago. The situation of Russia and Israel has been tensed, but now it's stabilized. And we have also talked about some of the conflicts and future development trend. Right now, it's still difficult to tell. There might be some other major news event that is about to happen.
Like Russia-Israel relationship. So the upcoming events like today we have the Gaza rockets already again, and then later we will have the election in the Israeli side. So something like they're going to maybe make the situation intensified.
Maybe with the elections, we always expect that the Israeli side will make some show for their people in order to gain more votes. So this is one problem, we think. Again, which is, as you said, that it's the election. We're waiting for the elections in Israel. Usually we expect that the Israeli government, especially Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who had this, we had this experience with him before, that he makes a show. He makes a show for his people by making war with the neighbors, maybe Gaza, maybe Hezbollah, we never know. and the tense in the region makes it possible. But in the same time, the Israeli side keeps saying, or there are two different opinions. One opinion says that we are about to have a new war in the region, and there's another opinion says no one is ready for a new war in the region, especially that Hezbollah, for example, is not really, they are not really free enough to have a war on the borders with Israel.
So we have to wait and see. Still, it's unclear.
Unclear.
Right now. Okay, thank you so much. 那我跟大家马上翻译一下，达林主刚刚说的很精彩的观点啊。他说这个对，现媒体界、巴以的媒体界、中东媒体界都在等着以色列要。
So according to the Middle East media, they are all waiting for the big election coming up in Israel. So before the general election, it is quite normal to have a situation tensed up. This is quite common before a big election. So in order to prevent Hezbollah from getting the weapon, and Israel has done a lot, but none of the two sides are ready for a war. None of them are prepared for this. So everything is still uncertain. I also talked to one of the experts of Middle East called Caesar. And also he's an expert, a very good expert on the northern situation of Israel. He said that because of these military upgrade in all of the surrounding countries, it is quite likely for some of the conflicts or frictions to happen. There is a very high chance for that to happen, much higher than before the year 2000. Small things or conflict can cause casualties because of the more advanced weapons. Israel has no diplomatic relations with Lebanon and Syria, so we still have to wait to see what will happen in the future. We are really coming to an end of today's live stream. I want to thank our guest here, Ms. Darren.
Middle East and Israel affairs.
谢谢另外一位中东问题专家。
And our expert who provide his unique perspective on this issue. Also, our cameraman, Mr. Shahan. Today, we touched upon a lot of heavy topics. And before we go, let's take a look at some of the beautiful sunset. Consider one of the best views in the Middle East. If you're looking to the east, you can see the territory of Syria. If you go further, you can even see the Mediterranean Sea. It's a perfectly romantic place to enjoy sunset. Many people drive a long distance here just to appreciate this beautiful scenery. Hopefully, you can follow closely our live stream in the future. Good night.